There have been a long string of people who would have been the next CEO of the Walt Disney Company after Bob Iger. An endless string of high achievers that almost had the big chair. Tom Staggs, Kevin Mayer, Christine McCarthy, Jeffrey Katzenberg, but none of them were as well known or as close to the spirit of Walt Disney himself as Pixar luminary John Lasseter. And we can't help but suspect that the obvious choice might have been what put a target on his back to be removed from the Walt Disney Company in shame. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. I'm Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. I'm also a longtime Disney fan, but when I hear Alan Ng from Film Threat talk, I wonder if Alan is a bigger fan than I am. In his and Chris Gore's series on Film Threat called The D-Files, they are consolidating their sources from Walt Disney Animation into a giant expose on what actually happened at Disney Animation and Pixar that took them from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to Toy Story to Inside Out, and then to Wish. Let's get into it. Then there's corporate ego. Maybe some within the company considered Lasseter could become a threat to his superiors like Bob Iger. From a fan's perspective, John Lasseter seemed to be the heir apparent to Walt Disney himself. He had an upbeat and positive demeanor on television. His collection of Hawaiian shirts garnered an "Oh Dad" from his fans. What would happen if Lasseter did ultimately step into the literal shoes of Walt Disney? Is it possible that Disney executives just saw this as a threat? Just speculating, but was Lasseter due to be taken down a peg or two, or maybe taken entirely off the board? This segment in particular, I wanted to focus on here. Yes, John Lasseter was absolutely being groomed to be the next CEO of the company, whether they were doing this on purpose or not. You have this story of Walt Disney, the man, Walter E. Disney, not the Iger Corporation that now holds the rights to his name. The creation of the first cell animated feature film and the first feature-length animated film to American audiences with Snow White. You have a pioneer who's doing amazing things in the world and has creative standards. And then you have John Lasseter, a man who convinced George Lucas to sell off the company that sold the Pixar computer. He got him to sell it to Steve Jobs during the next era, and so that he could pioneer all these computer animated shorts and work on Toy Story, the first feature-length animated film. And it is not just a technical achievement, and that technical achievement is amazing. But what's more important about Toy Story is it is a great film.
Yeah,
it would not have become anything if it had not been a great film. There would have
Right.
We'd be talking about another CGI film that broke the ground, that made CGI be well adopted. This would have been in the dustbin of history as the film that did something interesting, but ultimately was a flop at the box office. And then we talk about some other Ants, perhaps, although surely not.
It would be tech history, not heart history.
Exactly, Lou.
Tell me two voice actors that were in Ants.
Never.
Sylvester Stallone.
There's
and,
one.
Why can't I think of his name?
We gotta save the colony, you know?
Yep. Woody Allen. He was the main
Allen.
character. Yeah.
I remember that.
All right. Returning back to the article.
Wait,
here.
one more thing is that when Lasseter came in, they said from the get-go that he was going to look over the parks creatively too.
Yes.
And there's footage of him in the parks, and I mean the joy as he walks around. He doesn't say, "I've seen footage of Galaxy's Edge, and it's absolutely incredible. I think our customers are going to be really happy." Yeah. He would go in and talk about. The man had an intimate history. He was a pixie duster in the most positive sense of the word. He was a man who lived and breathed Disney magic, and he got fired the first time for pushing for computer animation. Which, guess what? That ultimately turned out to work in Disney favor, but only because they made a mistake and pushed him away to go work on his own with Steve Jobs.
In the theme park realm, he was so influential that I remember this story when they were trying to get more funding for Cars Land and Radiator Springs Racers in particular, and he had it out with some financial accountant who basically said, "Hey, look, listen, if you don't give us more money to do this ride properly, then you better be at the exit telling people why coming off that ride, why it wasn't more spectacular, that kind of thing." And it was like, whoa. and that's why it got like a $500 million budget or something like that. I mean, it was a massive amount of money, but he was so influential all along the way. I mean, he was a guy that was, J.J. Abrams went up to and said, "Hey, how do we make this Force Awakens work?" And he's like, "Well, if you have this BB-8 figure right here, imbue as much physical comedy as possible." And that's where we get the thumbs up via the match and so forth. Some of the stuff that did actually work came from John himself.
And Vash,
Tangled, for example.
You know the
all
timeline better
go
than
ahead.
I do, but I would suggest that Radiator Springs Racers is the last great attraction built at any Disney park as far as original attractions.
That's quite the claim there, Lou. But I
can't think of anything since then that's as good. I really can't.
There are many people who will agree with you, and John really put that all on the line right there. After DCA 1.0 didn't work very well, Bob Iger and John Lasseter recognized that they needed an infusion of Disney into that park. And one of the ways they did that was via Cars Land, obviously. That has been a draw for 10 years plus ever since it made its debut. And I remember John talking about it, how he was saying, like, this is like Big Thunder on steroids right here. This is going to have an amazing nighttime lighting package. This is going to be, I think he called it an F ticket, not even an E ticket, but an F ticket.
Easy, Vash, easy.
Well, I'm just saying, it's just like one step beyond. And
So
John was so integral in all of that, in all those things.
The only thing I have to do here is somebody's cat's trying to jump into the live stream, and I'll say we don't have enough.
I can't blame them, honestly. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in this live stream?
The thing I want to point out is that somehow all of this success right next to Bob Iger, even though you would assume that John Lasseter doing well at the company would be something that would reflect well on the CEO of the company, who is supposed to have retired 5 times now and is now back and is probably going to renew his contract again. They decided during the Me Too era, a single complaint came out, and then they asked for more instead of saying, okay, let's deal with this. One perceived problem John Lasseter had was his penchant for hugging. Dastardly right there. Hugging and other forms of familial affection seem harmless, right? Many sources saw this as a positive trait, but knew it was potentially problematic. They noted that many employees and cast members looked forward to a Lasseter hug and viewed it as platonic affection, while others didn't, and rightfully so. Let's be clear, not wanting a hug is perfectly acceptable, and personal boundaries must be respected, especially in an office environment, no matter if they are perceived as harmless. Some
Jonas,
felt
do you want a hug right now?
Not from you, but yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just. Oh, Vash, get back over there.
That's why Vash is here.
He was trying to hug me.
He's your handler, bro.
I see how this is. Now I'm starting to see how the Lasseter problems develop. Continue on.
So Vash is like the plexiglass screens during COVID.
That's right.
Some felt that he might take offense, whether warranted or not, and their hug refusal could affect their personal growth in the company. Important, our sources felt that this issue of personal boundaries was a significant problem and should have been addressed years ago. Guys, any take on that?
He was canned for being Danny Tanner.
Was Danny Tanner a hugger? Yes, he was.
He was a hugger.
He was also a clean freak.
If you believe in his value to the company, you take him aside and say, John, I know you don't mean anything by it, but some people don't like that. So could you even just sort of ask, hey, can I give you a hug first?
Go for the side hug, John.
Say that's fine. That's what you do if you're a manager who wants this guy in the company.
How much do you think he's worth, Ghost? How much is John Lasseter worth to a company?
$1 billion.
I'm going to say
at least.
I'm going to say $110 per share.
You think you could mitigate the hug issue in a better way and preserve the billions of dollars?
Almost any other way would be better.
Exactly.
I'll note this too about the hug issue and stuff. This article does make mention of it. He did have a little bit of a battle with alcohol.
Right.
Which may have influenced a little bit of that.
Let's go ahead and read this. It was no secret that Lasseter liked to drink, particularly at office functions and celebrations. No one said that he had a drinking problem, but alcohol did present problems for Lasseter in public settings. Film threat publisher Chris Gore recounts working with Lasseter at the Sonoma International Film Festival. The parties were lavish, the wine flowed freely, and Lasseter loved wine. Several sources confirmed that alcohol was becoming a problem to the point that Disney corporate was forced to have handlers on standby to watch over Lasseter to avoid the mere appearance of impropriety.
Right.
Now, I would say that that is a prudent move if you've got somebody that has poor judgment when it comes to alcohol and is so important to the company.
May I suggest that
his own
anyone
winery,
who
by
has
the way.
ever enjoyed the petrified tree at Disneyland's Frontierland should know that Walt's drinking is why it's there, basically.
That's a great point.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think that Bob Iger reluctantly did what he had to do in order to make sure justice was served? Or do you think that Bob Iger did what he did to serve the interests of Bob Iger? You tell us what you think, because we would love to know. This clip was part of our now regular Thursday live stream, which starts at noon Eastern Time. Of course, if you're not in that time zone, just hit the notification bell if you want YouTube to tell you when that is. Like this video if you like this video. If you know somebody who is as interested as we are in this kind of thing, then maybe you should share the link with them. And of course, please consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.